You've got an article out there that I thought was really interesting about why the Clippers should trade for Zion Williamson now. Tell everybody, like, how did you even get to this conclusion?
Oh, it's all because of Joe Smith back in 2001. Remember, in the cap circumvention case with David Stern and the Minnesota Timberwolves back in 2001, the closest comp to what we're seeing with Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers right now. David Stern dropped the hammer and took 5 first-round picks from the Minnesota Timberwolves as punishment. And in the CBA, if the Clippers are found to be violating the rules around cap circumvention, Adam Silver can pull 5 first-round picks. Now, if you're Lawrence Frank, guys, and you're running this team, and there is potential that in a year's time or in 6 months' time, the league office potentially, if they find you, guilty of violating league rules around cap circumvention, take your first round picks. Can't trade them; they're gone. So a little bit of what we call a prisoner's dilemma here, some game theory here, where Lawrence Frank is like, okay, I don't know if we're guilty or not. They're going to find us guilty or not of cap circumvention, but we have 2 first round picks that we can trade right now. And so they have the 2030 and the 2032 available to be traded. And in a year's time, they could be gone. So if you're the Clippers and you see Fred VanVleet tearing his ACL and out for the season, that's one contender that has to takes a step back here. Do you take those first round picks while you're under investigation from the league office for cap circumvention? Do you preempt all that and say, we're going to go out and hunt for a star that we can trade these 2 first round picks and a couple swaps here and incentivize a team that might be wanting to trade one of their young players or one of their guys that maybe they've decided to part ways with? This is a situation that seems ripe for the picking in terms of Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans for a big reason. Joe Dumars is the new president of basketball operations for the New Orleans Pelicans. And typically what happens when you get a new GM or a head decision maker is they want to clean house and build this new team that they're taking over for in their own image and have their own guys. Zion Williamson is from a previous regime, and he is rebuilding this franchise. He traded the 2026 New Orleans Pelicans first round pick unprotected to the Indiana Pacers that also could be swapped with the Milwaukee Bucks. It got widely panned across the industry. One way you can kind of refill your draft pick stock is to call up the Clippers and say, look, Zion Williamson, he's in great shape, but like going forward, we're going to build around Derek Queen, Jeremiah Friars. What we want to do is talk to you about those 2030 and 2032 first round picks. Both teams, I could see a scenario where they're motivated to do this because the Clippers have an open slot at the power forward position, and who knows what happens with those picks going forward. You might want to smoke them if you got them.
Look, I think that is brilliant, 100%, because you can't get picks taken away that you do not have. But walk me through maybe the league office and how they would approach this trade. What is their jurisdiction on maybe holding the Clippers picks in purgatory until they get to the end of this investigation? Because it does seem kind of obvious. Okay, you're trading away the picks so they can't be taken from you, right?
Hey, I'm getting an all-star in Zion Williamson. You can't tell me I can't trade for Zion Williamson. He's one of the bright faces of the league, and you're telling me I can't trade for that guy? There are basketball reasons why you want to trade for a guy who, over the last 3 years, is averaging 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. There's not too many guys in the league that can give you that type of production. So there's another part of this, besides the basketball part. Adam Silver went out on the record last week in an interview on a panel and said, look, I have to treat this that they're innocent until proven guilty. And so can you imagine if Adam Silver out here is saying there's going to be a high burden of proof that they have to meet in order to see them as being guilty of cap circumvention, and then go ahead and say in the other side of his mouth, hey, we're going to freeze all your assets so that you can't trade or upgrade your roster to win a championship right now. That to me is very hypocritical and contradictory statements if he were to freeze these assets. And you can imagine every other owner would not like that precedent of the league office can freeze your assets if you're under investigation. So the league is kind of caught here. They can't necessarily freeze those picks because that is guilty until proven innocent. And this isn't the court of law. This isn't an FBI investigation into the Clippers, right? So the rules are at the hands of Adam Silver. And he went out and said on the panel, look, I am treating them as they're innocent until proven guilty, and freezing their picks would be in direct conflict of that statement. So if I'm Lawrence Frank and Steve Ballmer and the organization, I feel like I can trade those picks and upgrade my roster right now to go all in on winning a championship this season, guys.
Okay, so best case scenario would be the Clippers trade for Zion. They win a championship. Everybody holds hands and walks off into the sunset. What's worst case scenario if they trade those picks and then later are found guilty?
Yeah, so I guess what Adam Silver would do is take the next 5 picks. Or again, if they are found guilty here, if they are found to be in violation of cap circumvention, we just have to put those caveats here because Lawrence Frank might be operating that they're clean. That we have nothing to worry about. Those picks, we're not in danger of losing those picks and having a time-sensitive asset like that. He might be operating on the complete opposite side of this and say, look, we're going to keep those picks long-term, but we want to go get Zion Williamson. There's 2 other players I named in that article, Michael Porter Jr. with the Brooklyn Nets and Brandon Ingram with the Toronto Raptors coming home, so to speak, back to LA where he started his career with the Lakers. Those are 2 other guys that fit into a salary slot that would work with John Collins and Bogdan Bogdanovic's contracts with the Clippers. Salary matching works for those 3 players, but there are other guys out there that could come over to the Clippers, and it's not like Adam Silver can suspend or void the contract of those players that they get for those picks, right? It's not something that they can do. I know Adam Silver said he had broad powers in this case, but to suspend or void a contract in a secondary transaction that had nothing to do with Kawhi Leonard, I don't think they would have powers to void the contract. But in terms of maybe aggravating the league office by trading those picks, I guess you can make an argument that Adam Silver would look at that and say, hey, I originally was going to do 5 first-round picks, so 2033 all the way to 2037, but now because you traded those picks, that's poor form. I'm going to tack on another first-round pick or 2. And let's be real. If you studied the Joe Smith case, you know David Stern came down hard with 5 first-round picks as a penalty, but later, because of good behavior, they gave back 2 first-round picks of those 5. So really the penalty was 3 first-round picks. So I can understand the argument that you would not want to annoy the league office here. But also, if you are innocent, then you have nothing to worry about here, Caroline.
It's so interesting to me, Tom, because as I read your article, I kept thinking about the fact that Ballmer was smart enough, if he's guilty, to have been trying to circumvent the cap. And he's a very rich individual, and rich individuals are good at figuring out their way around certain situations. And all of this, the way you stacked it, I'm all in. So now give me this. I'm putting Zion on the Clippers. I've decided that you are now the truth seeker. This is the way it's going to happen. Zion Clippers equals what?
A real good shot at winning a championship. Now look at the Zion Williamson power drives that he has into the paint and sprays for 3-point shooters. You need guys that are able to hit threes around you to kind of open up that paint, because Ivica Zubac, he's a defensive player of the year candidate annually, a good young player in his prime, but he's not a 3-point shooter, not a spacer. But you do have Brook Lopez fits. So when you're looking at guys who can fit next to Zion Williamson as a guy who's not a 3-point spacer, a guy who's going to drive into the basket, you might want a stretch 5. Well, the Clippers already got one of the best stretch 5 rim protectors in the NBA in Brook Lopez. And so when you're looking at fit, Zion Williamson as a guy who's able to bring athleticism and foul drawing, and a guy who likes to spray to 3-point shooters. You got Bradley Beal, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, all 40% 3-point shooters off of catch and shoot threes. This is a great fit for the LA Clippers, getting a talent like Zion Williamson. And from the other side, the Pelicans are rebuilding here. They're a team that drafted very young. With their 2 first-round draft picks last year, they moved up to get Derek Queen, who's been injured since being drafted. This is a scenario where they could be bottoming out this season if they don't value winning these games this year. I could see them putting Zion Williamson on the trade block, who has 3 more years left onto his deal. And kind of clean slate for Joe Dumars is if he trades Zion Williamson to the Clippers, then he can focus on the future and rebuilding around Trey Murphy and Derek Queen.
So Zion has been the subject of trade rumors for a while, as has Giannis. And the latest in that, when he spoke with a Greek news outlet, he said, quote, "I hope that getting traded out of Milwaukee never happens, but I'm expecting it to. Just because you've given a lot to the team doesn't mean the team won't do what's best for itself." What did you take away from what Giannis had to say there?
Man, Luka Doncic really changed the NBA. Like that trade changed everything. I think Giannis doesn't say this unless, he saw what happened to Luka Doncic with the Dallas Mavericks last year. I mean, that really opened up Pandora's box. You could be a two-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP, and still your team would trade you in your prime because look at what happened with Dallas and Nico Harrison and Luka Doncic. So if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're seeing around the league that star players, either by their own desires wanting to be traded or their team deciding to trade you, this is the new NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a student of the league. He understands the league dynamics. Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yes, he wasn't an MVP candidate when the Clippers traded him, but all of these elite players in the league have been traded at one point in their career. And so Giannis Antetokounmpo is not just looking at precedent, he's also looking at 2027 in which he can be a free agent. And if the Milwaukee Bucks feel like he is not going to sign long-term, an extension before he can walk as a free agent, not this upcoming summer, but next summer, then I could see why Milwaukee Bucks would trade him before letting him walk for nothing. So I think he's smart enough to know that if Giannis is not seeing the kind of championship win now moves from the Milwaukee Bucks, that they might decide, you know what? It's better for us to trade Giannis Antetokounmpo before he walks in free agency in the summer of 27, in which the Clippers, by the way, and the Golden State Warriors, a lot of teams, the Lakers, are going to have a lot of cap space, and you can bet they are going to be eyeing Giannis Antetokounmpo to fill that cap space in the summer of 27. But the Milwaukee Bucks might not let him get there in terms of they might trade him before it comes to that.
I guess, Tom, this is my difficulty. If I go all the way back to 2018 when I first really got into this business, I'm sure you were one of the guests that we talked to about this on my radio show at the time. We've been talking about Giannis being traded for the Bucks for almost a decade. Like this is an annual thing of like, well, Giannis is out. At some point, it feels like boy who cried wolf. Why is it different now than it's been in the past?
I mean, I think it's just the new NBA, the fact that trades are much more frequent in the league. When you're seeing that the new CBA is incentivizing teams to acquire players in trade rather than chasing them in free agency. You saw almost no free agency action this summer. Adam Silver has been asked about it, is that trades are the new free agency. The mid-season deals are the new free agency that we kind of grew up in, watching LeBron James hold court with 5 different teams in the summer of 2010 to see who he's going with. That's old. That's old news. I think Giannis now seeing that teams are more willing to put in assets and trade for guys like Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic. This is the new NBA. So yes, it is a boy cried wolf situation where we continue to hear, Giannis's name being thrown around, but this is different because the NBA is different. The new CBA is different, and the new precedent of Luka Doncic being traded, GMs now are looking at that and saying, okay, if they got Cooper Flag at the end of this, all right, maybe it isn't so bad trading your superstar in the middle of their prime. I hope that for Milwaukee Bucks fans, they don't trade Giannis Antetokounmpo, but I do see an NBA executives are more open to this idea, and I do think that Giannis Antetokounmpo is a student of the league.
I know we got to get you out of here real quick. On the big number, you talked about the Rockets with their treasure trove of first-round picks. Why wouldn't they simply put together whatever it takes to get him?
Yeah, because they can't. A lot of their guys are trade restricted until December 15th. So when you look at Fred VanVleet, his contract can't be traded until December 15th. A lot of the guys on that roster, they can't be traded until the deadline or around the time of the deadline. Also, man, they're right up against the hard cap. They can't really make any moves in free agency. So this is a situation in which maybe Reed Shepherd and some first round picks might be flaunted at the trade deadline. But for now, it's Amen Thompson and Reed Shepherd playing that point guard position. But those Giannis Antetokounmpo sweepstakes, they might heat up if the Houston Rockets are really struggling to maintain those title contender aspirations. Sorry to use the word aspiration there in the context of the NBA now. But we'll see, guys. We'll see about Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, how they start, how Houston starts. It might get really interesting around the Houston Rockets and Giannis Antetokounmpo come the trade deadline. Not right now.